the study on Psalms, but this is the Constant Thought and Prayer channel on Rumble or Koulie Kyle on YouTube. And either way that you're consuming this content, we appreciate it. And I hope that it is fruitful for your own personal benefit. So, let's get into it. I shortened this one up just in case we end up having questions because it's I got a busy day ahead of me, so I got to get a couple things done. But I want to make sure that we honor God first and foremost with what we're doing and how we're pursuing our day, especially with some heavier tasks on the list. But it's all good. So, Psalm 127, laboring and prospering with the Lord. Or does one of you guys want to read that, or you want me to?
I can read it.
Okay. Nicole's going to start for us.
127, a song of ascents of Solomon. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain. In vain you rise early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat, for he grants sleep to those he loves. Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be put to shame when they contend with their opponents in court.
Huh. Says they shall speak with their enemies in the gate. But it's funny because I am getting ready to fill out that document to go to court. Well, let's see what it says about this. Although Janet looked like she had a
I just yeah, it's funny how she said the court, because mine said speak to their enemies in the gate.
Same
so
here.
I was like, oh, I like that. It's like, prepare yourself.
Prepare ye for the way of the courthouse. Do you guys want me to just get into the summary, or do you have any thoughts?
Oh, you can do this.
Okay. Psalm 127 teaches that human effort is useless without God's involvement. It emphasizes that God is the source of success and security. Building a house, guarding a city, or working long hours will not achieve anything lasting unless the Lord blesses the work. This is actually something that I feel like was a really hard concept. It's like it seems so basic, like duh. But I honestly feel like this is a really key fundamental aspect of what needs to be like reshifted in our heads, because I was actually talking to Zach and Andrew about this, but we always feel like we don't have time to do Bible study. Like, if you guys saw my desk right here, it looks like a bomb went off on it. But the whole thing is that I feel like in doing it with God first, then everything gets the appropriate order and priority. So nothing is out of whack if you pursue doing it that way. But then everything else shows up when it needs to. Like, all of the unimportant things fall way in the background. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like constantly I just don't have time for this, but yet doing this makes the whole landscape shift for me. So I feel like that's super healthy, at least on that aspect. But rest is a gift from God, and that is true. I even think about like the mindset that you exist in your day. Like, I don't enjoy my days when I start having little sleep or rest, you know? Everything seems like a problem. All the people are, like they're just pulling on my last straw, which it's really my fault for not accepting that gift from God. But Psalm contrasts anxious, exhausting labor with peaceful rest God provides to those who trust Him. And I think that the trust is knowing that we can go to sleep without feeling like our life is going to fall apart, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise we tend to want to death grip that control aspect.
Absolutely.
Right? And
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, I think same thing with putting God first in, looking ahead at Him of the source of success and security and abundance, which I think is interesting. Myron Golden pointed that out in the book of Genesis. There was abundance without necessarily needing it. I mean, and that is what abundance is, right? It's over and above what your needs are. And in that specific case, he was talking about gold and how gold was there even when they didn't have a need or even knowledge of what it was for. But even there was no bills. They didn't have to pay any bills. There was no rent. There was no food. There was no insurance. There was like nothing. And yet they were provided for, right? Point three is that children are a blessing from the Lord. They are described as a heritage, reward, and like arrows in a warrior's hand, symbolizing strength, legacy, and protection. So that's actually really interesting because I feel like that's been a bigger shift in my mind recently is just like what is God's opinion of children and kids? Because a lot of my buddies that are in the, let's call it the 30-40-year-old age band, predominantly, that could expand out depending on who I'm talking to, but the reality is like a lot of those people look at children as burdens, and all they see is, well, it costs this to do that, and if I can't do this, then I can't do that. And it's all of this negative view, this vantage point of why you don't have kids or more kids, or, and I think that that's kind of like it's just the wrong perspective, honestly, because I do look at people that, they choose to have lots of kids and they do seem to have that reward, although there's a lot going on there. You can't deny that. But my buddy with 5 kids, it's like that's a busy household right there. Almost to the point of needing an extra car or a bus to get around with the whole family. Let's see. Person with many children is honored and secure. Such a person will not be put to shame because their family provides support and dignity.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and what's interesting is like you have an interesting family dynamic because a lot of the culture, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a rich aspect that gets lost on a lot of like more, I don't know, you could call it more traditional American, or maybe, I don't know where we really get that, but like
It's very traditional American because even nowadays you go back home, the Chamorro Americans have a different aspect from family values than Chamorros. Chamorros are very Pacific Islander.
specifically
Specific Pacific Islander.
That's what I was going for.
Traditions, yeah. Where you can live in a multi-generational house. Your brothers and your sisters can all live in that house, their kids and the kids after, and it's okay. Why? Because the house is filled with family, there's love, and the dynamic is different. Whereas every time I go home and I'm like, oh, your family's okay, but I'm not staying with you because even though we're family, I have my family. And it's like, what? But our house is open to you.
Right.
And it's more like, even if it's for a short period, we want to, like, come.
Yeah. And many times I feel like that burden seems to be heavier with like the traditional approach of like, well, I don't know if I can, I see it. We're not naming names, but we do know like it's more of a burden of I don't know if I can deal with that company for, days. And it's like I feel like it's a blessing, although I've been in a position to where I've also been taken advantage of too. So I think it's how do you deal with that in a respectful, demeanor, or I think both sides have to come at it like it has to be treated and stewarded properly.
Absolutely.
Do you guys have any thoughts on this too with like the Psalm 127?
I'm surprised you got 14 people watching, no comments.
Yeah, welcome here, guys. I don't know if some of you guys are new here. I did see that we got some extra viewers, which we appreciate. Hopefully this is fruitful for your day. And if you got any questions, please feel free to share whatever might be on your heart or mind. But Psalm 128, do you want to do it?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm reading from the New King James Version. Blessings of those who fear the Lord, a song of ascents. Verse 1. Blessed is everyone who fears the Lord, who walks in his ways. When you eat the labor of your hands, you shall be happy, and it shall be well with you. Your wife shall be like a fruitful vine in the very heart of your house. Your children like olive plants all around your table. Behold, thus shall the man be blessed who fears the Lord. The Lord bless you out of Zion, and may you see the good of Jerusalem all the days of your life. Yes, you may see your children's children. Peace be upon Israel. Wow, that kind of goes with my church thing.
Yeah, tell us.
He actually mentioned, so it was about peace, right? For those of you who don't know, I'm from Colorado Springs, Colorado. The Zeal Church off the Citadel, also aka Shootaville. That is also it's a great church. Okay,
It's too funny.
God is well. That's what it's called because it's in the ghetto.
I grew up there.
Yeah.
We're still
So you
not
would know.
It's true.
Anyway, this Sunday service we're doing Advent. So this week is peace, and one thing that he correlated to peace. When you're walking with the Lord, peace can be found in Jesus, yes, but it's crazy how verse 1 says, blessed is everyone who fears the Lord, who walks in his ways, because that is one way to achieve peace, is giving God all of that fear, all of that anxiety, because only he can conquer that. It's in the fear of God, knowing that he can give you that peace, that you can, just enjoy life. And then it goes on to say, you will enjoy everything as long as you give it to him. Fear the Lord, you work hard, you do what he's telling you to do, you're going to be fruitful. And not just that, you're going to live long. People in the Bible, they lived long because they didn't have preservatives and until they died 40 and all that. So, yeah.
Oh, Janet, you're funny.
It's truth, Kyle. Just like fun fact, flat Earth. Throwing that out there,
Let's
Rumble.
get into it.
These two want to have a discussion on flat Earth. We could cue that up for after Psalms. Although I do also have that Bible study on Islam and Christianity, which I think is interesting. Although I feel like maybe I need to know more before I venture into that, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe that's
People want to know if the Earth is flat or round.
Do you want to know? I don't know if I'm going to have an answer, although I'm willing to explore and see if I could get to, as they call it, the ice wall.
Winter is coming.
I got all-wheel drive for at least a short while longer.
But back to Bible study, I definitely think, I don't know, there's so much promise in this that it's hope.
Well, and it is. It's interesting, you say it like that because it talks here about the blessings that come to those who fear the Lord and walk in his ways, right? And it's an emphasis on obedience. But I feel like the world that we live in, at least the people I'm around, even believers, even myself, obedience many times feels like something that I don't want to have to follow, what God is putting out for me. It feels like he's controlling. But
It's very hard.
Well, it is. And I think that once you realize that, he doesn't mean it to come off as a punishing, you're going to follow me or else, although there is that dynamic as well. Really, the obedience is like a good parent. You don't let your child wander into a street full of a bunch of cars because of the danger that exists. So that supersedes what the parental, consequences, because, just kind of in this dynamic with God, I feel like kids don't understand the true danger, of whatever we're trying to help them avoid. We don't understand the true danger of what God really knows. Does that kind of makes sense.
A lot of sense.
But I do feel like kind of with what you were talking about, I think you use the word hope. Those who honor God will enjoy the fruit of their labor and experience well-being. Um, and I see that like as I've really dug a lot deeper into like what does God have for me, the fruit of that accepting the obedience is coming with more success and prosperity, and not I'm not talking about just really fiscally, although that comes with it because I feel like that has a higher call into stewarding what God gives you across the board, which pays massive amount of dividends and yield because there's wisdom in it. So I feel like it's not does it bring you wealth fiscally, but your health, your relationships, your mindset, like we were talking about
Yep.
therapy. I mean, I think if people just read their Bible, it will address. I mean, we wouldn't have a lot of these problems if people read them and followed them in obedience, right? But talks again about family life is blessed. The psalm pictures a wife who is fruitful and flourishing, and children who grow strong like olive shoots. So even like my heart feels for you, Nicole, in your parents leaving, and they're not gone, but they're not here, right? And so it's a little bit of that distance. Like, I mean, I've lost my father, so he's not here, but even I still have my mom that we can, go have some amount of family, although it's harder as my brothers have spread out, that I feel like that's a burden in a weird way that is harder to feel like that community is immediately accessible. Although we do have cell phones, it's not quite the same.
I can feel that. I feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's not as much of that familial presence, right? Like,
Correct.
yeah.
Like you can, and it even goes to show when, I hate to say it, when the enemy divides a family, there's a grieving process that the flesh has to endure, but spiritually, there's the longing of the family that should be present. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I could definitely, yeah, I feel what you just said right there.
Right.
That's true.
God's blessing extends beyond the individual. It reaches into the home, community, and future generations. And I feel like this is just that's really interesting, right? Because the more that I've sought after my relationship with God, the better, better. Like I look at the cultural dynamic of for me making the shift, and it's like we have a lot of people that will join our Bible study, but also it's really strengthened the relationship with my family members. I think it's bled into all of my other behaviors that have been really, I may have been a good person, but I was, maybe self serving or not as able to decouple from my own personal opinions. And, it's kind of like, I don't know, Kyle, do you love your own opinion and perspective more than maybe actually nourishing the relationship and providing a fertile grounds for other successes to transpire? And so as I look into that, like when you go and I mean, that's kind of what God's word does is it what do you call that with where we, it's basically like turning the soil so that it's like part of the crop rotation and all of that process. But like if you have the right ability to plant seeds to have growth, like you're gonna approach life completely differently with God as part of it than and even if it's just like a lukewarm relationship, I've seen that go from like lukewarm to now very like a daily thing, and it just has changed my personal life in huge ways. But also that bleeds into home, community, future generations, because then you see the value of sowing into your children, other people's children. I think that when we hear a lot of these divisive statements like our generation is so much different than yours, blah, 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 like why focus on the problem and not the solution? And I feel like people want to call out these younger generations, which they do need it, but they need loved on more than, just this like comparison. And so I think that as the younger generations absorb the wealth of the wisdom and knowledge of the older generations, they start to realize and appreciate the differences. Um, so then it says, "Those who fear the Lord receive peace and long lasting blessings." Psalm ends with a prayer for God's peace upon Israel. So, again, with the dive into our relationship with Israel, but I would just put the emphasis on the fear of the Lord. And I mean, maybe from your guys' perspective, what do you feel like is the benefit of the fear of the Lord?
Consequence. I think our human nature needs to know there's consequence to
Well,
not following him.
do you feel like it goes back to that previous point of like it's a healthy warning of, hey, I love you and I care about you, so not, is it out of love that those boundaries and parameters exist?
Yes, absolutely.
When
Yeah. Awareness.
right.
That's what it brings to my mind is fear of the Lord is awareness that there could be something, but it also could be a benefit for me.
Well, and what about, yeah, I mean, and I think that kind of goes in further on the, if you look at it, like think about it in relationships, right? Beyond parenting, right? Like, if I, for instance, like, you could look at it in this working relationship, you could look at it in a romantic relationship. Like, there is really healthy boundaries that need to be put in place if you actually love those people and I think you confront them out of compassion because you care for them in a way that, like, if I saw behavior where I'm like, Nicole, you keep showing up like an hour late, you're not going to have a job if you keep doing that. Not that you've ever done
That's
that,
the
but
anger and
yeah.
the motivation. Yeah.
Well, and it could come from anger, but it could come from compassion of like, hey, I see some behavior here that's leading you into failure, And I've seen that in myself where my true friends will call me out and be like, you're acting kind of stupid. Like, have you thought about checking your behavior here, Even, and I think that it kind of brings back that dynamic of Christ being a shepherd, right? So I mean, think about what happens. Like, not only would he go get the one sheep that wandered away, right? But also what happened to that sheep if that happened repeatedly. I mean, he would actually go so far as breaking its leg, right? Because then it would at least not wander away from the herd, or whatever they call them, flock.
Yeah, the flock.
Sorry, I'm outside of my profession, but um, so at least I think that is my personal approach to that thought. And I think that, breaking your arm is better than losing your life, right? And if we as the sheep have that tendency, then it is. So praying Nana says healthy fear and reverence, which is exactly what it is. So I can end on that point. Who's on the next psalm?
That is you, sir.
Okay, 1.
29.
Okay. Song of victory over Zion's enemies. Song of ascents. Many a time they have afflicted me from my youth. Let Israel now say, many a time they have afflicted me from my youth, yet they have not prevailed against me. The plowers plowed on my back. They made their furrows long. The Lord is righteous. He has cut in pieces the cords of the wicked. Let all those who hate Zion be put to shame and turn back. Let them be as the grass on the housetops, which withers before it grows up, with which the reaper does not fill his hand, nor he who binds sheaves his arms. Neither let those who pass by them say, The blessing of the Lord be upon you. We bless you in the name of the Lord. Any thoughts?
It's more of the same. I mean, it's just showing a history like it says the history of oppression and that God's overcome.
Right.
Well, and I feel like that is specifically like I don't know. Do you guys feel like you see that theme in your own lives with like what God is doing and how he kind of like that trend?
In waves, yes.
I was gonna say cycles.
Yeah, it's not a linear thing, right? But I also feel like that's kind of like typical to our human nature because we don't make this. Typically, our disciplines really, they take a long time to kind of refine, but we go in waves. Like I've noticed that. That was probably one of my big constructive criticisms of myself, was I had a lot of ability, but I didn't have the disciplines. So while I would have the capability of doing something really well at a time, I didn't continue to do it for time. And it's affected the result, right, in a huge way. So, but with a trajectory towards the goal. So, so in this it says, Psalm 129 reflects on Israel's long history of suffering at the hands of enemies, yet celebrates that God has always protected and delivered his people. Israel has faced severe opposition since its early days. The psalm uses imagery of enemies plowing long furrows on Israel's back, symbolizing deep, painful affliction, which is interesting because it still seems like there's the oppression, and now there's Israel as far as being the hot topic in discussion, which, of course, I feel like a lot of it they've brought on themselves, so it's deserving, right? And I mean, same thing with ourselves. Like, how often do we see that within ourselves? The parallel of, well, we brought this in. God gave us the ability to have a pretty easy, life, but then we make choices that may not be necessarily in line with, being obedient to what God said, just as same as Israel. So it says, despite this suffering, the enemies did not defeat God's people. The psalmist declares that the oppressors have not prevailed, highlighting God's faithfulness. Despite the suffering, the enemies did not. I mean, and we know how the story ends. But I think at the same time, we do have oppressors, and we're going to be going through that season of oppression. And it's probably only going to get worse for us as believers, unfortunately. But that's part of pursuing towards the promise and the hope of what God has laid out for us.
You've got a couple of comments here.
Oh, okay.
Praying Nona, was that your mom?
Nana.
Praying Nona?
I was thinking that was Janet, one of Janet's relatives.
Oh.
Mountain Woman says, for everything there is a season. That's very true. And I think if we realize the season we're in, then we can appropriately approach it so that it's, we don't want to sit here trying to be, harvesting a field when there's certainly nothing there, right? So it's all in a sequential order. But I feel like we have that tendency to drift as, our human desires are like, oh, I'm going to go do this. And, we just completely left maybe a whole field unattended too, right?
And just for clarity, praying Nona is not related to Janet.
Oh, okay. What about
That's a Nona.
Miss Kwan?
Huh?
Kwan?
I don't know about Juan either.
Kwan?
Yeah.
Miss Swan. Okay, so God is righteous and cuts the cords of the wicked. He breaks the power of the oppressors, freeing his people from bondage. Thoughts? Contemplations? I think that, through the seeking of God, he does break the power of the oppressors. The tie into other whatever the worldly distractions are, I don't feel like that will happen, honestly, without seeking something outside of yourself, right? Because otherwise we totally seek this, like, oh, I want to feel good about this, so I'm going to go, pursue this worldly, um, affirmation or something like that. But it's just, whatever the vice, it just keeps us enslaved. So, um, then point 4 is a prayer spoken against the wicked. The psalm asks that those who hate Zion be put to shame and become like the useless grass on rooftops, shallow, quick to wither, and without blessing. And I think, the wicked are people that don't see or seek God or His presence in their life. And I mean, I think that how can you be in the presence of God and still, pursuing that, which maybe that's an ongoing battle for some people, but I feel like, the prayer or the people that are pursuing things that are against God, I think, are kind of living in this reckless carelessness and thinking that they're not going to have to pay the consequences. Oh, Nana is grandma in Italian. Oh, okay. Well, then that's definitely not Chamorro.
That's Italiano.
Okay. Well, what is grandma in Chamorro?
Nana.
Oh, it is.
It is Nana, yeah.
Oh, okay. So
That's
I was
Nona.
like, Nona
That's Nona. That's
and
Italian.
Nana. Okay. Well, I wasn't completely not paying attention. Well, thank you for joining us, by the way. All right. So next one, Psalm.
130.
Yeah. Who wants to knock that one out?
My turn.
Yeah.
A song of ascents. Out of the depths I cry to you, Lord. Lord, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to my cry for mercy. If you, Lord, kept a record of sins, Lord, who could stand? But with you there is forgiveness, so that we can with reverence serve you. I wait for the Lord, my whole being waits, and in his word I put my hope. I wait for the Lord, more than watchmen wait for the morning. More than watchmen wait for the morning. Israel, put your hope in the Lord, for the Lord is unfailing love, and with him is full redemption. He himself will redeem Israel from all their sins.
Similar theme.
Yep.
Do you want to go into any of these points?
Yeah.
Crying to God from deep distress. Ever been there?
You can hear that, yeah. I did it Saturday night in my car.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's my
Oh.
home away from home.
Is it?
It's where my big back son won't find me.
I hide out in my truck so that I can have focused and isolated,
Yeah.
typically a time or conversation on the phone. But I think that sometimes maybe that's not necessarily my deep distress, but there is certainly those times, and again, part of Mountain Woman's comment on the seasons. And in those times, I mean, it definitively is a very difficult time to cry out and, but I think that at that point, like, I mean, we don't want just God on demand. We don't want to treat him like he's just there to show up for us in those tough moments, but also, but he does, and sometimes I think we all may feel like it takes longer than we would want it to, but to me, seeking him seems to expedite the healing process. So, how about human sinfulness and God's forgiveness?
I can see that.
How could, if God kept a strict record of sins, no one could stand, but God forgives, inspiring reverence and hope. And it's kind of interesting because, so in the study of Islam, it's talking kind of about having your goods outweigh your bad, or sinful behavior, which I think is an interesting comparison and contrast to what we believe in, the biblical blueprint for how this works, right? Because, I mean, I think that I try to really honor my obligations. But when you start looking, and if you turn everything into, so kind of when we were talking about forgiveness the other day, it was like, man, if you had to put everything on an abacus and you had to look at the rights and wrongs and you had to slide the little beads from left to right, it's like, do we really think that we could ever make that right enough?
Say, well,
Uh-huh.
you do that, you're not going to put your own sins on it. You're judging everybody else, right?
Yeah.
Well, but I think that that's where you have to change the perspective and the lens, right? Because it's like we really have to look at, like, if I'm truly being honest, the vast majority of really horrible things that have happened to me were because of my own decisions,
Of course, yeah.
right? And I would say, like, it's an astronomically large amount of, what the amount, right? Like, if you really are, like, did you really know better or you didn't? Like, were you really that ignorant? I think we're all a little smarter than we give ourselves credit for.
When we're younger, we're not when we're mature.
But we may want to, but it's like, yeah, as you mature, hopefully that, is something that's removed from your behavior. But, it's like, I mean, I don't think age necessarily alone says that you're going to make more mature decisions. But, I think for sure the challenging and refining of yourself, especially in the biblical sense, is like where you actually have a shot at having that happen and, removing those things so that you're not repeating unwise decisions,
Yeah.
So, patient, hopeful, waiting for the Lord. Psalmist waits for God with deep longing, like a watchman waiting for the dawn. Any insight into that, Janet or Nicole?
Feeling like I can really relate.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like you're in a deep longing or a waiting period?
Sometimes.
I think even, as we put in the work on ourselves, it does still feel like waiting or longing, It's like, well, and our inclination is to want it, like we don't want to wait for the new release of a movie or something like that, but like becoming patient in and like trusting the process is a very difficult thing.
I want to say it's harder now, and the difficulty has increased because right now we're in a society that is instant gratification, instant results. So it's like I can send you an email, and I know that there will be a 30-minute time frame of where my attention is on that. After that, it's an hour. After that, it could be a day. After that, it's pushed out because the next 30 minutes, other things in my life have taken precedence.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
So when I think about that, it's like, okay, I can wait on the Lord, yes, but it's almost like in our society, what does waiting on the Lord look like? Because we want it now. We're a human right now. We're in our flesh, and society has driven us to be. If it doesn't happen in a day, God's not going to do it. But God's working on it. And here's the thing that I always have to tell myself, because in the period of longing and waiting and seeking out the Lord, when you seek out the Lord, sometimes that wait is longer because, again, God needs you in a position before he's ready to give you what he's designed for you. Because, say, for instance, 5 years ago I made a decision, right? And this is just hypothetical, but 5 years ago I made a decision. And it wasn't on the path of the Lord, but I felt like it was. But it was a distraction, right? And then from there, you're trying to make it work. You're trying to fit God into the plan that you have, not working in God's plan for what he had for you. So the waiting period gets prolonged. But everything is like, okay, God, take me out of this. I'm waiting for you to deliver me. But it's like, well, I'm not not going to deliver you from something that I never gave to you. So you got to seek me out. And it's like, okay, so until we surrender everything, leave that fear, just like 127, 128, 129 have all been kind of directing us to do. Put that fear in the fear of the Lord and what could happen, give it, surrender it. We get that peace, but we also get the true design of what we're supposed to be, right? And at that point, it's almost like that instant result or that weight isn't as bad because we're on the path of the Lord and what He has designed for us. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like,
that's
I
great.
feel like that's a word right there. Like 127 to right where we are right now. It's like, okay, it's literally cycles. Like, oh man, you can see the fruits of your labor. Just fear the Lord, be blessed, be in Him, and then you're waiting. And isn't that what it always feels like though? Like, oh God, I'm gonna give you everything. Okay. I'm waiting. Okay, Lord.
We're giving Him.
I trusted you, but rent's due. I got life happening. I just said yes to 5 events, and I should have said yes to 1. So I'm gonna need you to like slow time down for me. Okay, God, you got this.
We're breadcrumbing Him.
You know, and it's like it's not fair to the Lord for sure.
No.
But it's almost like even as Christians, we all, we're human.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. 100%. Well, and we tend to really want to hang on to something in the, like, that we think is giving us security or trust, and it's like
A control issue.
yeah, definitively it's like, is it? I mean, and have you really assessed that for what it is? Like, if you're really making these decisions ahead of or outside of God, are you really relinquishing control to what His plan is? You know.
Yeah. Don't listen to that Jezebel. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. That's true.
She be stealing everything.
Oh, yeah. Hope and redemption for all of Israel. Psalm ends by encouraging God's people to trust in His unfailing love because He alone can redeem them from all their sins. And that's kind of, back through that same, I think even through our own horrible decisions and selfishness and control, grasping for control, this hope and redemption exists for us as well. Even when we don't deserve it, we still are just being that, like, very,
God's grace and mercy, man.
yeah, almost trying to take, it's like we just don't want to trust in God because, He might not show up, so, but, yeah, and Mountain Woman, you said not my time, His time. These are not equivalent. Definitely not, but seems to be confusing when we want to make decisions in our own human intellect, right? Okay, Psalm 131. Is that you, Nicole?
Nope, that's me.
Oh, Jan.
That's me. I shall be reading from my best friend Jamie, the amplified version. All right, so a song of ascents of David, verse 1. Lord, my heart is not haughty, nor my eyes lofty. Neither do I exercise myself in matters too great or in things too wonderful for me. Surely I have calmed and quieted my soul like a weaned child from his mother. Like a weaned child is my soul within me, ceased from fretting. O Israel, hope in the Lord from this time forth and forever.
Interesting.
Yo, I'm just gonna be honest with you. That verse hit me hard. I don't know if there's any other mothers out there or, fathers who have seen the weaning process. Yo, that's trial right there. Do you remember those days, Nicole? The weaning from the mom, from the milk, from the separation, cutting the cord per se, what that looked like. Yo, that's nonstop child crying. Terrorizers.
Terrorizers.
You don't get any sleep because they're just so full of emotion. They want you. They need you. But
Little tyrants.
calm and quieted. my soul like a weaned child from the mother. Lord,
Yeah.
that's what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh.
Nicole, any perspective on that, being a mom yourself?
Not really, no.
No. What about this? My heart is not haughty, nor my eyes lofty. I think that's like a, we can go through that period where it is, we go through the haughtiness or the loftiness, right?
Yep.
Concerning ourselves with great matters, nor things too profound for me. I feel like I definitively like to wrestle with some of that myself. I'm like, ooh, this sounds like a really good deep dive. But it's like, well, is that important? Do I have the time for that? But surely I've calmed and quieted my soul, which is a huge blessing and a gift. So this Psalm 131 talks about a peaceful expression of humility, contentment, and trust in God. So it emphasizes a humble heart. And the psalmist refuses to be proud or to concern himself with matters that are too great or beyond his understanding. So I think that a lot of that you just have to make peace with, not knowing what you want to know. I say a lot of that is just going on my list to God after this life. I hope I can still read it. I'm a list guy. But a calm and quiet soul, he describes as inner peace using a gentle image like a weaned child resting with its mother. Which is interesting because you do forget, like, not having that peace is, you don't have, we were talking in the previous psalm about rest. What do babies do?
Well, it depends on what age group.
They deprive you of sleep.
This 10 to 1 is killing me right now. 10-month-old to 1-year-old, it's almost like we got FOMO, right? So our eyes are absorbing so much. We're curious, and that's where I'm like, oh my gosh, where we wrestle our sleep. We need the rest. Babies need rest to grow their little bodies, but they're like, there's so much that now my eyes are open to.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's infants and adults, no matter what, in the spiritual aspect. I feel like we're all babies at one, like in different parts of our cycle. Whether it's that next step and now you're having to evolve and everything's being opened, or a newborn Christian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's crazy.
It is.
Because every stage needs that eye opener. Let me absorb what I want, but it's also that, okay, now it's time to rest after you absorbed it, because how are you going to retain it?
Yeah. That's true. That is true. And I feel like, imagine, so like yesterday was too, it was one of those things where I was like, man, I'm worn out. Like my mind was really just, there's a lot of busyness going on throughout the week and then the weekend, and it was a lot. So I had to really like take time to take some rest so that I could like process through. It's like, okay, done hanging out with Jamie. That was a great time. And then I'm looking at this, this news article from Richard that's going into just completely shifting gears. And it's like, I'm not processing any of that until I get some sleep, And it's like, not processing it well, that's for sure. But I think that that's kind of where, we go back to, like it says, a call for Israel to trust in the Lord. And I think that trust does many times look like rest and just knowing that some of this stuff can wait for now. And to know that, like, the distractions of the world will still be there when we wake up. But I think we can navigate them better as we do seek Him and just kind of, we take that time to rest and trust that He's going to take care of what we can't. Which is kind of so that link that I think Mountain Woman said is just talking about learning to pray and Lord, do it or something better. And I'm not watching the whole thing here yet. But
Priscilla Shar is amazing, by the way. Yeah.
I think I do remember hearing her, and she is great. But I do think that, we do have to realize that sometimes like trying to do it ourselves is going to bring just this kind of response and result of not having God's favor on having what God could show up and do. And I feel like that's in this season that I've been in and been coming out of. God's restoration looks far better for me, and it's far faster than I've, realized that I could do on my own. And that's kind of the evidence of just relinquishing, like trying to wrestle this alligator myself. And that's why we're doing Bible study daily.
Amen.
Yeah, never did I think that I'd see so much fruit in doing this, but it is a far better rate of return on my time and energy than trying to wrestle through all this stuff on my own.
It does. It helps to refocus every day, remind you and refocus this is the highest calling that we have, not the paperwork on our desk and other family dramas or anything. This is the highest, so it's definitely a good refocusing for me.
Yeah, right. And it changes the way that we go about everything. And it's like maybe here we've spent 51 minutes doing this, like of time away from work. That's pretty substantial in the terms of like what we do. But I feel like it's far more beneficial to just, bring this back to the right foundation for starting the day. So, anyways, that's it for today. So I don't know if you guys have anything else, prayers. Any of you guys have prayer requests? In that light, we are going to shut it down and get back into our work mode. But no.
I think we need to pray, like for the next few weeks. Pray for people dealing with the holidays. The holidays aren't easy for everyone.
That's true.
Good point.
That is.
We're getting pretty close here.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people dealing with like the seasonal depression as the changing of the seasons. It can be difficult for people that don't have families
just the
traveling.
Basic struggle of like for me, because I have family and stuff around. It's just this year has been a lot harder financially than I've had in past years, and I know because of the government shutdown and things, there's a lot of people in the same boat where. Maybe the holidays are hard, but you get joy from purchasing gifts and being able to share those with your family, and a lot of us probably won't even be able to afford to buy gifts this year. So that's just another depressive kind of thing. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of people probably in that boat a lot more than usual.
Well, and maybe even too, like, that's been a conversation with like Jamie and I is like shifting the focus, because there is, like you were talking about that too, Janet, where it's like, we have this tendency to really look at the gift component, and if we can't do that this way, then it feels like failure. It feels like we're letting somebody down. But really, are we? Like, I think if you look at all the things that, like, do people really need, like, that could be valuable in many ways, but it also might just be recalibrating and, like, trusting God and, like, He's going to provide, and it's not in the ways that you think. But I think that's kind of where it's like being open to how God creatively solves problems. So that's been at least a theme for me, is in the past when I've had money, I've just been like, oh yeah, I'm going to, throw it out like crazy. But I also feel like, as you could testify to that, you saw a lot of that season, it was just like, this is not transpiring or producing the fruit and the harvest that I want. And so it's like, really just seek God in the season of how to really bless somebody. It might be a prayer, like words. Think about how valuable words are, and offering somebody hope and encouragement in a tough part of their life, and just coming alongside of them to just be present and spending maybe some time with them, I think we underestimate all of that.
I have 100% to agree with you. I don't know why my English came out that way, but I have 100% agreed with you on that. people are going through so much. And Nicole, you're right. This year, for whatever reason, God has challenged a lot of people and their families, breadwinners, and then it made families really struggle. So I 100% agree that it may not necessarily be a family component nor a financial component, but just hardship component, just the weight of everything that has been throughout this year. And the saying is, you never know what someone's going through until you walk a mile in their shoe, and that's even if the shoe fits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at this point, life has definitely been hard all across America, not just America, but the world in general. There's so much hate that, I mean, Christians, and I would have to say this too, like it's a religious war out there. Christians versus Islam, Islam versus Christians. When I hate to say it, it's just people going so radical.
Yeah.
That the agree to disagree can't be there. It's either one way or another, but either way, life has been taken, whether it's a religious movement, a racial movement, a political stand. 2025 has been difficult. More death than anything, but I mean, that's where I find that these Bible studies, we never know who they can touch, and the internet is so vast and wide that God is using you and this platform and you reading and posting and all of that, that there's someone out there who's getting hope. There's someone out there reading through the comments, seeing Mountain Woman 86, how to pray. You know, God is moving, but it has been difficult. And this year, I would have to say financially, family-wise, mentally, I mean, I know for me, I have family all around. I still feel distant. However, my husband lost his dad 2 years ago, and this year it seems to be hitting harder than ever, that all he wants to do is hear his dad's voice. And there's nothing that I can do because they weren't the kind of family that had voice messages or, you know, phones like that. So I can't replicate a voice to go to Build-A-Bear and be like, here you go. So it's one of those where it's like the only way we can keep some memories alive is just talking about people, talking about family. But even at that, there's only so much talking that you can do to someone who's missing someone, that it can encourage them, but it can also just make time present and realize that time has to move on, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But either way, God is good, and I feel like a special prayer for those in need, no matter what area they are, where they need to be reached, just lifting them up, because God is good, and I know He got angels out there that can definitely send encouragement, whether through people or just, hey, finding something. Like, I went to King Soopers, found $20.
Yeah.
Tried to find the owner.
Right.
I walked out with $20. I'm the new owner. But
yeah, exactly. Well, and I just, yeah, and I guess it's both sides of it, you know.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's easy to get wrapped up in the season and the, you know, the perspective of how we approach it and why we do what we do, you know. I mean, and it kind of goes back to that, like, you know, feeling like we're at a deficit, or maybe the way that we want to bless or pour out love to somebody. You know, and it's, I guess I laugh because it's like, you know, I look at some of my gift giving and has it been in the way that I want to be loved, you know, and so you kind of figure out how are you, yeah, are you giving, like, I mean, I'm a car guy, but not everybody wants car parts, you know. Jamie thought that she was getting like car parts for her birthday. I was like, oh man, I feel like I've finally matured out of that, but no, I'm just kidding. But no, so it's just, you know, realizing where people need to feel that love, and that's an interesting perspective shift too. But Praying Nana says, love listening to Priscilla. She's a powerful woman of God. Love all her movies. Amen. I'll have to look at those two and check them out. But guys, I'm going to pray and then we'll close out. But dear God, just thank you for today. We just lift today up to you as a holy and living sacrifice of all of our everything that we have. We just try to relinquish control of the flesh and offer it to you, God, that we can die with Jesus so that we can step into his heaven, and so that we can shift our perspective from the things of the world to the things that are heavenly, and that we can specifically keep those in mind that just are struggling or suffering with whether it's a loss of somebody who's passed or somebody that's just not present, even in these feelings of many people have seasonal depression or feeling like maybe the holidays aren't materializing the way that they need to be for them. But we just pray that you can take all that pain and turn it into purpose, and how we step into fulfilling what you have for us, and not what we think that we're supposed to be doing, but really just step into that higher calling that's glorifying and honorable to you, Lord. So we just pray that you guide our footsteps and our minds and our hearts in this process. But thank you, God, for all these amazing people here, Janet, Nicole, that we all work with, all of the opportunity that's coming with the realization that maybe, God, you need to be more present in our lives and our hearts. But let us just fully step into that and commit to you, and we just pray that we can glorify and honor all of our relationships, whether that's the people we serve as our clients, that we work with, and that and all the familial relationship, and also the romantic side. So we just thank you, God, for all that you do, and continue to bless us as we step forward in that calling. Keep us prosperous and protected. In your name, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So, Jamie said, great work, everyone, on the study. Keep up the fantastic effort of being a light to others. Thank you, Jamie. Love you. Praying for your day, your peace, prosperity, and that it doesn't get too chaotic in the clinic. I think that's it, right?
Amen.
All right. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon. God bless.